I love the pub. We as a nation love the pub. But is a pub really a pub anymore? It's fair to say the humble pub has seen quite an evolution over the past decade or so. Well, I'm not sure I've said the word pub quite that many times in a sentence before. But perhaps more importantly, can pubs survive everything that's been thrown over them for the last few years? According to the Altus Group, there were roughly 40,000 pubs in June this year. That's down a massive 7,000 since 2012. Eek. Pubs have suffered through COVID and are now facing surging inflation, staffing issues and even higher energy costs. In fact, 400 pubs in England and Wales closed last year as inflation started to eat into their profits. As you can see, the stakes for the Great British Boozer have never been higher. So in this video, I want to find out if the likes of Chef Tom Kerridge are to blame or leading the charge to save our national institution. Is it all just doom and gloom, or is there any cause for optimism? Stick around to the end to find out, plus what you can do, if anything, to help. Now, not all of you tuning in may have had the pleasure of visiting a Great British pub. So before we dive into it, let's kick things off with a quick history lesson. Meet Tom Kerridge, a top UK chef, and a bit of a national treasure if you ask me. He happens to be the brains behind the only 2-star Michelin pub in the world, and luckily for me, it's just down the road. Now, I've been fortunate enough to eat a meal or two there before. By the way, if you ever swing by the area, they serve an unbelievably reasonable set lunch, at least at the time of recording, and you can even pop in for a couple of pints if you wanted to. But what's the hitch, I hear you ask? Who wouldn't want fantastic food and drink right on their doorstep? Well, the fact is, until fairly recently, British pubs were what you'd call wet-led. That means they raked in most of their earnings from selling drinks. And there's a whole squad of folks in the pint community who reckon it should stay that way. They think that any pub offering so much as ropey bangers and mash, let alone Yorkshire grouse with game keema muffin, black pudding puree, almond and blackberry ketchup, Bombay potato and Marston sauce, woof, should take a step away from the kitchen. Think of it like the eternal debate between music lovers. You know, the one about vinyl versus digital. One camp clings to tradition, while the other camp warmly embraces change and the perks it can bring. Now, I'm not here to jump headlong into that musical minefield, although between me and you, I do have a side. Do you? Let me know in the comments below. But trust me, it's a nifty metaphor when it comes to pubs, and I'll be unpacking that a little bit more in the video. So hold on to your pints, because we're about to venture into the fascinating world of pubs. Let's embark on a whirlwind journey with all its twists and turns. And as with many things in this country, it started with the Romans, yeah, those guys. When they invaded in about 43 AD, they brought along a wine shop called a tabernae, lining the roads to keep their soldiers' thirst quenched. I've always wanted to do this. Now, in my best Monty Python impression, what have they ever done for us? But when the Romans eventually packed up and left in the 5th century AD, ale houses began popping up, many of them operating right out people's homes. The Middle Ages ushered in a significant shift as more people began travelling around the country, thanks to those sturdy Roman roads. It was this increased movement that led to the emergence of inns, where travellers not only found shelter, but also hearty meals and refreshing libations. Now fast forward to the 18th century, and the UK was caught in the grip of a gin craze. In an effort to promote healthier drinking habits, successive governments encouraged people to turn to beer. Brilliant. However, the food scene within pubs was still very much evolving, with street vendors offering an array of treats like pickled whelks, fried fish and more. Basically any dish that didn't require any cutlery. As World War I raged on, concerns about morale led to legislation significantly restricting the hours during which pubs could serve alcohol, narrowing it down to just 2 periods, 12 noon to 3 p.m. and 6:30 p.m. to 9:30 p.m. Immigration brought new culinary influences to the UK, notably the arrival of Jewish settlers who introduced the concept of the fish and chip shop. The humble potato also played a pivotal role in the emergence of bar snacks. In the 1920s, Frank Smith, founder of the Smith's Potato Crisp, began packaging crisps with a dash of salt in grease-proof paper bags, which quickly found their way into pubs. By World War II, the government had shifted its stance, recognising the essential role of pubs as social hubs. And rationing finally ended in 1954, and meat and bacon finally made a triumphant return to the pub menu. As we strolled into the 1950s, pub grub started to make a more significant impact on the pub culture landscape. Think homemade pies paired with a pint. And if you were feeling a bit posh, you could snag some crisps, or maybe even some pickled eggs. And if you were really lucky, the local fishmonger might even swing by with a fresh catch. Yeah, revolution was brewing, pardon the pun. One that allowed even pubs without chefs or cooking experience to serve food. Enter the microwave and the freezer, which expanded the range of offerings from steak and ale pie to sausage and mash, and of course fish and chips. The 1970s and 80s witnessed a remarkable growth of the pub industry, with more pubs offering food to complement their primary trade, that of drinks. In 1974, Beefeater, a well-known pub food chain, made its debut at the Halfway House in Enfield. Shortly after that, in 1983, Harvester joined the game by opening its first location in Morden. Fast forward to the 1990s and a significant milestone was achieved, the rise of the gastropub. Now, whether you attribute this culinary renaissance to David Eyre and Mike Belbin from the Eagle pub in Clerkenwell, or Dennis Watkins at the Angel Inn in Hetton, North Yorkshire, fact remains that pub food quality was on the upswing. Even the Churchill Arms in Kensington, West London, made a pioneering move by becoming the first pub in the capital to serve Thai food. But as the early 2000s rolled in, the pub sector faced significant changes, with rising costs and evolving customer demands, pushing pubs to diversify. The days of simply opening the door, selling cheap booze, and expecting a packed house were fast fading. The era of the food-led gastropub had arrived, transforming the way people experience pub dining. And this is where Tom Kerridge re-enters this video, with his 2 Michelin star pub, the Hand in Flowers in Marlow. For good or bad, he really is the poster boy for this change in our pub culture. Now, if you're enjoying this video, it would be great if you could subscribe to the channel. It would be a fantastic compliment and a signal to me that you're enjoying this sort of content and would like to see some more. So come on, grab that pint and a fork and get involved. So when it comes to your favourite pub, do you lean more towards the traditional or the modern? Are you a vinyl or CD kind of person, or a film photography versus digital? Now, being a professional food photographer, this is easy for me. But what do you think? Let me know below. Now, I'm old enough and I've been going to pubs long enough to remember the simple joy of a wet-led pub. Back then, serving any food that didn't come in a packet would spark a riot. But as I mentioned earlier, the UK has seen a staggering loss of 7,000 pubs since 2012, with a whopping 25% decline since the 1980s. These beloved haunts have faced a perfect storm of challenges, from the 2007 smoking ban, which, let's be honest, was a massive success in the end, to the rise of budget-friendly supermarket booze, the cost of living pinch, and nowadays those sky-high energy bills. And unfortunately, it's the wet-led pubs that have taken the biggest hit. And here's the kicker. These factors, well, they aren't the only reason for the dip in demand. In my opinion, the colossal elephant in the room is that many of these pubs failed to connect with the new generation. Back in my day, traditional pubs were the go-to place for weary folk to unwind after a hard day's grind. But times have certainly changed. We've shifted to a service-based economy, and drinking habits have followed suit. With more women in the workforce, drinking habits have evolved, and men with families are prioritising quality time at home. The result? Well, a changing landscape for sure, that calls for more inclusive environments in pubs, catering to women, families, and non-drinkers. And guess what? Ambitious, restaurant-quality cooking has proven to be a massive hit. Punters now expect a top-notch experience when they step out, and pubs need to rise to this occasion. According to a 2022 BPPA guide, a small pub with no food raking in about £4 a week might be left with just £580 in a divisible balance. That's the net share profit between the tenant and the landlord. Now, after paying bills, alcohol, wages, Sky TV, you name it, suddenly, if you have a rough month, you're in the red. Now, let's flip that to gastropubs, and it's a whole different ballgame. For a town or country food-led pub, where the drink to food ratio is about 30 to 70, and they're pulling in about £15 a week, the weekly divisible balance sails to over £2,500. Sure, the costs are higher, but so are the rewards. But let's face facts. While some traditional pint pubs are serving up a nostalgic blast from the past, others have seen better days. Slim margins have definitely sounded the death knell for many. Now, from March 2022 to March 2023, the number of wet-led pubs shrank by 3.1%, compared to the food-focused taverns, which dropped by only 2.2%. And it's not just about the changing tastes. Many pubs are vanishing into the clutches of developers, especially in the bustling cities like London, Manchester or Birmingham, as the land can be worth more when turned into flats, offices or even the local Tesco. And while there are passionate campaigns out there to save beloved local pubs, reality often trumps nostalgia. So even if folks lined up for pints all the way around the block, it wouldn't match the cash developers can dish out. But hey, it's certainly not all doom and gloom. There's a surprising twist in the tale for some of the wet-led pubs, and I'll spill the beans on that later. So let's get into it. Why are traditional pubs like vinyl and modern pubs more like digital? In a world of convenience and speed where digital reigns supreme, there's a special breed of music fan who swear by the nostalgic warmth of vinyl records. They love the tactile feel, the occasional pops and crackles, that authentic analog sound. And this is kind of like how there's a unique breed of pub goer who finds pure joy in traditional pubs. These places offer more than just drinks. They have an atmosphere that feels like a time capsule. Traditional pubs like a portal to the past, where history can hang in the air. And some of these places have a rich heritage with weathered beams, old fixtures, worn in leather seats, creating an atmosphere that wraps you in comfortable nostalgia. So just as vinyl enthusiasts cherish that analog hiss, pub regulars soak up the creaking floorboards and the hum of friendly chatter. The great old-fashioned pub creates an immersive experience. Just like playing a vinyl record, you carefully place the record on the turntable, lower the needle, and as the music starts, you're part of the magic. In a traditional pub, ordering a drink involves personal chat with a bartender, who might even remember your name and your usual, and get into meaning conversations with friends and fellow patrons. It's not all about the drinks. It's a more all-encompassing experience. Vinyl enthusiasts often argue that analog offers superior sound quality, a richness that digital just cannot match. And in the pub world, a traditional spot takes a similar approach. Instead of an overwhelming drinks menu, they focus on thoughtful curated selection, including local craft ales and spirits. Quality definitely trumps quantity. Traditional pubs have an intangible charm, just like vinyl. where the art of drinking is as treasured as the finest music. Now, in today's fast-paced world, where convenience and diversity are paramount, the modern pub emerges as a counterpart to this traditional ancestor. It's where choice reigns supreme, akin to the endless playlists and genres available to the digital music universe. Much like scrolling through your favourite music app, in a modern pub, you can navigate a diverse menu filled with options that cater for a wide array of tastes. It has an array of choices from delectable dishes, handcrafted cocktails, fine wines, and a family-friendly atmosphere, all accessible in a single, engaging, inclusive environment. Whether you're in the mood for a gourmet meal, signature cocktail, or a place where the whole family can feel at home, the modern pub delivers an array of options like a digital music library at your disposal. In the 21st century, the Great British Pub is undergoing a transformation, shifting from quantity to quality, particularly in the independent sector. As part of my Dining Fables series, I've ventured into these new pubs, like the Beehive in White Wyndham or the Oarsman in Marlow, which have both brilliantly bridged between the old and the new. You can find links to these videos here and in a playlist with other fantastic examples at the end of the video. A fresh generation of entrepreneurs is breathing new life into tired establishments, embracing real ale, craft spirits, simple yet delectable dishes, and thoughtful designs both inside and out. They're offering professional services with a friendly smile. Ambitious young chefs are turning away from upscale restaurants in favour of pub kitchens, where they get the opportunity to flex their culinary creativity, serving tasting menus alongside pints and casual snacks. What's fantastic for me is they're reimagining pub classics, from the humble scotched egg to cooking whole animals and fish over open flame, all at reasonable prices within a charming environment. Sometimes there can be pushback from locals or die-hard pub traditionalists who fear that these new chef owners will strip away the pub's original charm. However, when any changes are made with care and the concerns of locals are heard and addressed, there's no reason why the pub can't remain a cherished part of the community. Pubs have always been a vital part of British culture, and restaurants add a new layer to these establishments, making them more economically viable. Relying solely on bid isn't enough anymore. This more relaxed approach to fine dining may draw mixed reviews from patrons who come to these modern pubs for exceptional food, perhaps even a tasting menu, only to find a construction worker having a beer at the bar. However, successful pubs should see themselves as community spaces, welcoming both locals seeking a craft ale and a bar snack, and serious foodies who've travelled maybe 50 miles for a remarkable tasting experience. The genie is definitely out of the bottle, and for a pub to thrive, it must acknowledge that this is the way that people want to eat and drink now. This ability to turn a pub into a destination, offering a tasting menu upstairs and a more casual experience on the ground floor, or just a drink, gives a pub a significant advantage over restaurants. Most pubs must now adapt to succeed, while preserving the essence of what has made the traditional pub great, that unique DNA that we all cherish. In my humble opinion, the pub isn't bowing out, it's stepping up and thriving in the 21st century. Challenges have certainly arisen, but pubs have always showcased remarkable resilience adapting to the shifting times. And so, to answer the question posed at the start of this video, is Tom Kerridge, or chefs like him, to blame for the traditional pub's demise? The resounding answer is no. While some purists certainly grumble about the shift towards food-led pubs, the truth is that this trend was inevitable. Traditional pubs would have had to evolve or face closure, devoured by developers or fading into oblivion. The closure of any pub is undoubtedly a sombre event, especially for the dedicated publicans and communities that cherish them. However, often what goes underreported is that a third of these shuttered pubs find new life under fresh management. And often these revitalised venues come with innovative ideas, boundless creativity, and a fervent commitment to transform the pub into a modern, inclusive, community-driven experience. So whether you're a quick pint enthusiast, family in search for a welcoming atmosphere, or a foodie on the hunt for a unique culinary adventure, there's a pub that can certainly cater to your desire. But let's not assume the traditional wet-led pub has met its demise either. I, for one, firmly believe that there's room enough for both to thrive, even if the balance has slightly shifted. Take, for instance, my favourite local haunt, a hoppy place in Maidenhead. Family-run craft beer haven. Their crowdfunding success underscores the local appetite for this type of pub. They champion independence, offering an extensive selection of craft beers, wines and spirits from over 2,000 breweries across the country, breaking free of the norm you'd find from 90% of pubs. Yet they don't stop there. They've ventured out into online beer sales, created digital beer events, and host countless community gatherings. Perhaps this is the model of the modern pub the industry should follow. Tom Kerridge, your status as the industry's poster child may soon come under some stiff competition. So as we look ahead, let's raise our glasses to the unwavering resilience of pubs, their storied history and the boundless possibilities that lie ahead. It's an invitation for pub owners and operators to embrace innovation, diversify, and continue to bring the cherished hubs to our communities. The pub isn't just alive, it's evolving, and with the right approach, it can remain at the heart of our communities for years to come. So come on then, if you want your local pub to survive and thrive, get a pint of some amazing food at your local. Cheers to the enduring spirit of the pub and to those who take on the challenge to run them.